Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we got a fun one for you today, folks. As many of you know, recently I began calling local fights here in Iowa Caged Aggression, and we've got another big event coming up, a three-parter in it's really less than 2.5 weeks away now. I think it's 2 weeks away from yesterday, in fact. I'm really pumped. Can't wait for it. And a big part of that is a guy by the name of Jason Vargas. He calls the fights inside the ring. He's the ring announcer guy, and him and Andy Hayes do a podcast called the Pearled Up Podcast. Now, I've been fortunate enough to go on their podcast, and not only when I saw the logo, but Jason was kind enough at the last event to give me a t-shirt, which I'd be rocking now, but unfortunately, it's in green ink, so you'd be seeing through me. It wouldn't work on the little makeshift studio we have. But I thought it would be great to talk about not only how he got into the MMA business, but the podcasting business and where he's going from here. Jason, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. I appreciate it. And even more, I appreciate how you flipped the script on me here. I was expecting to do one of ours, so we may have to steal some audio here and make a 2-for-1 out of it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, we're live right now we're live on YouTube as well, but we just got back on YouTube after a second strike and another suspension. It's really tough out there, but one of the really cool things about your promotion is that you kind of let me tell my story also, how I went across the country and I was looking for a little freedom and I happened to find it in a place called Davenport, Iowa. I mean, where your promotion is out of. And I got to tell you, I couldn't be happier. I've been here almost 6 months and it really has done wonders for me. Just the ability to go out to the bar with some of the guys last night and live a normal life and not have to wear a mask. That's a huge incentive for me. And I'm hoping that there's going to be even a little bit more freedom at this upcoming Caged Aggression event. I don't know that for sure, but I do know they opened up some more seats. What are your feelings on everything that's gone on? I mean, you're obviously from Iowa and this area. What's the last year been like for you?
I think, the last year has been probably what it has been for everyone. I mean, it's what you can really make of it. For me, it was a challenge. There were different obstacles in last year than I had the year before, but for the most part, it was just a year of trying to improve. And fortunately, there were some factors at play that kind of set that bar real low. So, I guess I had a really good year as far as 2020 went. It might not have had the start that we all expected, but it was a strong finish. Whether we look at it from a Caged Aggression aspect or even personally and professionally, a lot of accomplishments, even with my day job and my professional career. So, again, it was figuring some things out, but I think we all forget that's what we're here to do. We're here to figure things out. We're here to overcome challenges and we're here to grow from those. So yeah, that's how my year went.
Yeah, no, the irony is, despite all the attempts to censor me or throw me off this platform or that platform, or even demonetize me now close to a year ago, I had my best financial year ever doing this. And I had more opportunity. I mean, I can't tell you how happy I am that I'm calling MMA fights. That's been like a lifelong dream of mine, and I'm doing that. So no matter what they tried to throw at me at 2020, I was able to overcome it. It's good to hear that you were as well. So tell my audience how you got into podcasting. I know everybody's into podcasting now, but you got a really cool one, and you kind of mix it up over there. What brought you into the podcast arena?
I mean, honestly, Jason, it's kind of like everything else in life. I should say, yeah, everything, not just the good, but what we consider maybe not as good. Pretty much a lot like your situations. I just stepped in it, to be honest with you. I had a friend of mine approach me 4, maybe 5 years ago, wanted to do a podcast. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the road in my day job, and part of staying awake behind the windshield is having some good conversations. And, one of those friends of mine that I had a lot of those conversations with, revolved around nutrition, revolved around entertainment, revolved around, comic books, Star Wars, just funny crazy, just I guess guy stuff, you know, MMA, quote unquote guy stuff. Tradition. I don't. What can you say without possibly getting flagged? You're the expert at that. But anyways, um, you know, like I said, we just kind of stepped into it, and you know, we started doing a couple episodes. Life happens, as you know. His schedule got a little congested, and it got tough to coordinate them. And you know, I'm one of those guys that once I put my name to it, once I start trying something, you know, I have a hard time not giving it up, especially if I'm still trying to figure it out. Which you know, that's where we're at 4 years into the show, and we're still trying to figure out how to put out a good product and make it better. So.
No, it's always about that.
Fell in it.
Yeah, all about that, and all about production quality, all about the same things that you're talking about. You know, we had Pat Miletich over for the fight watch along this past weekend with Jan versus Izzy, but Jeffrey Wilson's in town as well. And, you know, we ended up starting to talk a little dork talk outside of the Pat Miletich arena, a little Star Wars, a little comic books, and you could just see his face turn sour. He's just like, can we stop this now? Can we talk about something else? And, you know, meanwhile, you know, Jeff and I are having a fun time just kind of talking about those kind of things. But those things are what bring other people into the more serious aspects. You know, even sitting at the bar last night, I can only go so far here on YouTube, but I ended up having a discussion about the V word with this guy who's a military guy who just got his second round of shots, that is now part of a 2-year experiment, even though he won't admit it's a 2-year experiment. And like, while we're jabbering back and forth and kind of going hard at one another, and it's so weird, the cognitive dissonance, right? I say to him, I go, dude, you're part of a 2-year experiment. He's like, I'm not part of a 2-year experiment. And then 30 seconds later, he's like, well, I do have to check in at 6 months and 18 months and 24 months. And I'm like, well, what do you think that is? Like, what are you talking about? But meanwhile, you know, I play something on the jukebox by Tom Petty, and he's like, I love that song, so we can at least relate there and have the conversation and not scream at each other and walk off like children. And I feel that's what society has encouraged now. If you disagree with somebody, you know, you basically call them a Nazi and you walk away because you're right, because they're a Nazi, because they said something you disagree with. And that's certainly not how I was raised in my generation. It was always more speech, more discussion, more debate, and then let's come to some kind of an agreement. Maybe we don't get everything we want. You know, maybe we do have to compromise a little bit. But now it's all or nothing, to the point where they're taking away our children's history, our memories, our childhood, the Muppets, the Cat in the Hat, you know, Dr. Seuss. What are your feelings on, I would say, accelerated cancel culture?
I don't know. I mean, I try not to have feelings or anything like that. I guess, you know, not to walk around like a robot or anything, but I guess to elaborate on that, Jason, I really try not to, as hard as it is, you know, I still get mad, I still get angry, I still get sad about things. But I really try not to think about things with my emotions. As far as cancel culture goes, I think it's dangerous. I think it can be a slippery slope. I think, you know, as with most things, they start off with decent intentions and, you know, eventually just end up imploding or exploding. And, you know, in a lot of cases, even with cancel culture, the way you see it right now, it starts to circle back in on itself and kind of start consuming itself. I mean, even lately, you know, you mentioned Star Wars. You know, I was a huge fan of, I still am a huge fan of The Mandalorian. You know, director Jon Favreau, I don't know if he's gone on record, but it seems like, you know, he leans towards the ways of, you know, some of the people that support what some people will call social justice. And, you know, one of his biggest stars of that series, you know, makes a social media post, ends up getting fired. And, you know, he's upset about it, but, you know, that's his people coming back and attacking his big star. So I don't know. Again, it can be dangerous. I see the good intentions, and I see why some people can maybe champion some of the causes, but again, it gets real dangerous, and that's just my thought on it. But Jason, I picked up on something you said not too long ago. You were talking about being part of a 2-year experiment, and one of the things you mentioned, I picked up on the word now for some reason, and it's funny to me because I think if you would have had these conversations years ago with some of the people from Tuskegee, they would have told you they're not part of an experiment either. I don't know.
No, and that's a great point. And so many people talk about the Tuskegee experiment, and even
It's
Joe
scary.
Biden in his town hall mentioned it. And kind of, obviously he could barely speak, and it was all predisposed or whatnot. But he was talking to an elderly black woman, and he brought up Tuskegee and why people may of color may not trust the government. But I'm just thinking to myself, well, it goes way beyond that. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tuskegee's awful, but you sprayed people in St. Louis with cadmium sulfite, and you rode around in retrofitted station wagons spraying those people with a radioactive substance. The Department of Energy did horrible things to our own soldiers and citizens without their knowledge. MK Ultra wasn't just LSD. It was one of those really intricate programs that went coast to coast that was literally dosing Johns at underage brothels they'd set up. I mean, that you're scratching the surface. So for me to trust a class of people that continually lie about everything to us, whether it be the war on terror or weapons of mass destruction or Russian collusion, these narratives end up falling apart, and people still cling to those that told you those narratives. Do you think that there's just some people that are just so far gone into a Stockholm syndrome of loving their country and their flag and whatever news anchor they've elevated in their mind, whether it be Sean Hannity or Anderson Cooper? What is it about American culture that just makes us keep going back to our abuser?
Oh, that feels like a multi-layered answer waiting to happen. I mean, I think it's a lot of things. I think it's exhaustion. I think it's misdirection. I think it's miseducation. And honestly, you're probably right. I think a lot of that does lead to, a certain type of mass Stockholm syndrome. But again, it's probably just way too complicated of an answer to like sit down and unpackage in whatever amount of time we have. Like I said, just because it is so multi-layered. I mean, I can even think of it myself sometimes. There's certain times where I turn certain sources off just because I need to keep from having that certain exhaustion. So again, I guess, small example, you keep hearing, here's this, be scared, be scared, be scared, be scared. Even though you don't start off scared, eventually hearing it, you're like, all right, fine, I'm going to be scared about it. So it's an odd answer, Jason. I don't know if that made any sense.
I think it does. I mean, they just keep pounding it over your head again and again and again and again until you fall into some kind of line. And, one of the discussions I was having with this group I meet with is that, even though I don't have a fear of this virus or what it's going to do to me, I used to go out to the grocery store 2-3 times a week. Fresh food, no problem. Now I actually fear having to go to the grocery store and be around a bunch of people that are all masked up and having to possibly deal with a situation at the door or the counter or at the aisle because somebody wants to give me a nasty look and I can't hold it in. And now it's a separate type of fear, but fear nonetheless that is absolutely directing my behavior. Now I'm stocking up every 2-3 weeks for food, and honestly, I usually go over to the Quick Star because they don't give me shit about wearing a mask. I walk in there every day, everybody's smiling at me. I can see they don't want to wear it. That's like my little safe space. My little safe haven. So I'll pay 30, 40, sometimes 50% more for a product just so I don't have to be put into that situation. And, someone like Militich would yell at me for that and be like, you got to man up, you got to get in there. But I'm just being honest with myself. I don't enjoy going into a room full of people that I just look around and I just see, them zombified and just obeying, and I'm going to wear it and I'm going to do this and that. And I guess that kind of brings us to the event coming up. No one even knew really. I mean, we all thought this event was going to happen, but it's been a long time since we've put events on. October and November were the last ones. How was the process of pushing this 3-fight night forward during all this madness?
A lot of that is on Mike, and I think he does a great job with the marketing, the just all the teasing, the videos that get put out, and obviously a big part of that is the visual material that Stephen Burrows over at Say Uncle Photography provides. They all do a lot of that. And, I think that's a big part of it. Obviously, the video production and, the finished product with everything that you guys do that goes out afterwards, that obviously plays a big part in, drawing new eyes to the promotion, whether that's athletes looking to, compete on one of the cards, or even fans that that are coming to either try and purchase a ticket or get the pay-per-view. As far as the podcast goes, we really try to do a lot to highlight the athletes, the teams, the coaches, a lot of those support roles that play the unsung hero in fight camps. We try to highlight a lot of those people and personalities during our show. It's great when it's a 1 or 2 night show. I'll be honest with you, Jason, this 3-night show, it's made it ridiculously tough to try and have everybody that deserves to have their story shared and everyone that needs to have a highlight of some sort involved in it. That's been the hardest part of this one. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, again, because it's a 3-nighter and because there's so many great people involved, I mean, we've had no shortage of interest as far as guests go to the podcast, and as far as interest goes in the actual 3-night event itself.
Yeah, and I am pumped. And in fact, I want to thank your co-host, Andy Hayes, for sending a $2 tip over on Rockfin. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, Rockfin. That's where I'll be if they completely deplatform me, and that's where I've really thrown my weight behind. He said, ask Vargas how people can watch Caged Aggression Triple Threat for free, courtesy of Caged Aggression and the Pearled Up Podcast Presents.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Good call. So what we're doing, again, we try to figure out ways to give back, and one of the things we kind of pride ourselves on, being quote unquote smaller. I can say that without putting it in quotes and not getting in trouble for it. Being a smaller regional podcast, we're able to interact with a lot of our listeners and fans and past and I guess future guest co-hosts. And one of the ways that we're doing that right now is we're having a listener contest where we're having people give us their best Conor McGregor impersonations. And it can be any kind of impersonation. It can be how he walks, how he talks, whatever it is. And all they have to do is let us know why they deserve to win. And we've got a nice Caged Aggression 30 triple threat prize pack put together, which includes free pay-per-view. And I know everyone loves something free.
That's right. And just make sure that you don't do an impersonation of how Conor rapes. That's all, folks. That's all I'm going to say for this one. You guys know how I feel about that. We've been on that one now for almost 3 years. It's hard to believe that story is almost 3 years old now and still nothing has been done. Speaking to the fighters and Caged Aggression, we got some return folks. I'm very, very, very excited to see Brandon Big Time Elbow Jenkins fight again. And, on the other side of that, Jordan Hinman is actually going to spend a night in the commentator booth calling these fights. That was a banger of a fight. Hinman was winning that fight before Jenkins turned it around on him with that big elbow. Just the fact that both of these guys get to be a part of this 3-night event in very different roles is kind of exciting to me.
Yeah. Well, and I told you and hinted a little bit to you leading up to this. One of my highlights is being able to watch the whole thing back. I don't always get to take in the entire experience that is a Caged Aggression show / pay-per-view now. Excuse me. A lot of times I being cage side, I'm paying attention to the fight. I'm taking little notes for interviews afterwards. So like I said, one of my biggest joys is being able to watch the things back and listen to what you guys add to it. And, knowing that Jordan Hinman and you are going to be part of, the next pay-per-view. It's a big deal for me because, Jordan, he's a natural at it. He adds a lot to the color portion of it, as well as, the play-by-play aspect of it. And then obviously, I've patted you on the back several times as far as what you bring to the table and what you offer and just how natural the flow is. And, you're like, what is it? I don't know. It's not the base. It's not the alkaline. It's the neutral, man. Like you go with either side of it, man. You know what I mean? You kind of tend to bring the best out of whoever's sitting along next to you. And I know that that's just ready to bubble over on the surface as far as Hinman goes. So that's a 1-2 punch I'm definitely looking forward to hearing about. And as far as being able to call the action on the night that one of his former adversaries, I guess, one of the people he's faced in the cage before, being able to commentate on the action during that night. I mean, again, that just adds to it. It brings a little bit of a familiarity. And of course, a lot of people that have competed in the cage or in combat sports can speak to this. There's just there's a bond, whether it's spoken or not, that's formed once that door closes. And these two have formed nothing short of that. And like I said, just there's a lot of extra stuff that goes along with the fact that those two are going to be there close to each other in proximity the same night. Jordan calling the action, Brandon competing again. Again, it's kind of like that answer I tried to give not too long ago. There's so many layers to it. My words aren't going to do any justice to it, but yeah, it's an amazing night. Amazing 3 nights actually.
Yeah. And people that don't know, you can right now get your pay-per-view at CagedAggression.tv. Like I said, it's less than 13 days away now. Man, I can't wait. Thursday is when it starts to pop out. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And hey, get this. If you're in the area, forget about the pay-per-view. Why don't you come on down? The tickets are extremely reasonably priced. I did hear that a couple of the nights had been sold out, but they were going to, again, be hopefully putting more seating in. A lot of people think that we're completely open because the governor says so, that there's no mask mandates and there's no other mandates. Well, Dana White was going to move his UFC 260 to Texas when his governor declared that. Guess what? The mayors wouldn't allow it. People don't understand. There's still problems with local officials and even people that own these venues in the sense that they don't want us to do a full show, which is just really upsetting to me. At the same time, I do believe that this time around they are going to allow for beer and snacks and things like that this time. They're not going to pull the plug on us again, are they?
I haven't heard for right now. That's what I know. But again, I don't bank on anything right now. I'm part of a planning committee, for where I work, and we're trying to plan some training meetings down the road, and that's one of the hardest parts about it. We're trying to plan for in person, but no one knows what that is. I mean, it's the same with this. Right now we're saying this is what we hope for. This is how it's looking, but with anything, it can change at a moment's notice. I suppose that's just life in general, but right now it's more of a reality than ever that like I said, again, it can change at a moment's notice. I was going to ask you that actually, being closer to Iowa, and hearing everything's opened up. I didn't know what that meant as far as what things go in Davenport, what that meant as far. I know hearts are open, minds are still maybe a little bit closed,
sure.
But
well, I mean, I look at it this way. Like I said, before they put that mask mandate into effect, right, where she actually said it, and you still had 15 minutes where you didn't have to be there, and people were getting upset, and I was getting upset because I just moved here, right? And I think that this was sometime in October. All of a sudden at the Quick Star, I saw the signs go up for the masks, even though they weren't enforcing them, right? And I think it empowered people a little bit more that wanted to complain or were in fear to say something to you. Now, I was there for the first caged aggression event that I called, where we had gone in and we were shooting stuff, and I was talking to Justin, and then all of a sudden, one of the guys from the River Center's like, "This isn't going to happen. We're not going to have this." And I'm like, "What?" And I mean, literally, that day, I went home super disappointed in the middle of the week that the fights I thought I was going to call at the end of the week aren't going to happen. And through a miracle, Mike Goodwin pushed back and finagled them into doing it. But I think that's just another one of these problems. It's that, okay, the government pressure's gone, but now there's a corporate pressure. And there are certain people that work for these corporations, no matter what they are, they're on salary. They kind of like this whole thing where they don't have to do anything and deal with people. And it's like, so you're telling me that it's really not the virus that you're in fear of. You're in fear that you might have to work a little bit, like your job that you had before. And I think people have gotten so comfortable with, not only acquiescing to this, but, throwing their authoritarian muscle around, that you've created a culture of, no, we don't have to do that because I'm going to be fine. And then we don't look at all those that won't be fine, right? Those fighters depend on these fights not only to further their career, but to pay their rent in many respects. And it's not like these opportunities were coming all over the place. So, again, I love the fact that I can go to certain restaurants. Shout out to Duck City Bistro right by the River Center. They're not making you wear a mask. It's a nice atmosphere. You go to a bar here, they're not making you wear a mask. It's a nice atmosphere. I might even go out Saturday for a pre-St. Patty's Day kind of thing, all that stuff. But then, I see that the corporate stuff, when I went to South Dakota, for instance, over the summer, after I went to Iowa, right, I was thinking, great, no one's going to mess with me here. I go to get a haircut at Supercuts, I got to wear a goddamn mask while I'm sitting there. And it's like, my mask isn't good enough. Here, take the doctor's paper one that means nothing. And I'm like, so I was just over at Sioux Falls Park, and I was amongst hundreds, if not thousands of people, no one wearing a mask, broadcasting there. Everybody's fine. I step in to get a $15 haircut, and I'm a slave again. So, I think that a lot of this push is going to be done through corporations like Walmart, like banks, and like institutions, unfortunately, like the River Center, right? Otherwise, who wouldn't want Dana White's money? Why wouldn't you want him in Houston, Dallas, in a 20, 30,000 person arena? And that's what I fear of, that this is going to get dragged out through bureaucracy, when even now, people are dying in New York. People think that the nursing home scandal's over. It ain't over. They've just shifted into, he's a pervert scumbag. So there's still a lot going on, Jason. And I'm just trying to, like we talked about earlier, trying to navigate this the best I can for myself and my family, who I took along with me, and I'm sure you're doing the same. You're looking out for your family.
Nope, it's just me for myself, rolling solo now. That's it, man. I don't look out for anyone else but me. No, you're right, Jason. And I was talking to Mike Goodwin, not too long ago, and we were kind of talking about the same things, and just some of the frustrations that are going along with getting this thing off the ground. And by this thing, I mean Caged Aggression 30. Aside from what some people might be thinking of when they hear that, it's not the fact that it's a 3-night show. It's not the fact that last minute changes happen, as with any show, from the smallest shows to the biggest, meaning the UFC. There was something that I heard that put it into perspective for me that I shared with Mike, and it made me think of it again when you were talking about all this and the confusion, and how, we've had the okay from some people higher up to open everything up and not be as concerned anymore. But then there's other people on different levels that are concerned and don't want to open up. I believe it was Adam Carolla, I believe, is who said this. And I can't even tell you when I heard it. It was not too long ago, but he was talking about how when this all first started, to some of us, it was just something. And by it, he was talking about coronavirus. But to some people, it was just something. To other people, it was everything. And for some people, everything is really, really hard to let go of. You can let go of something a lot easier than you can let go of everything. It's really hard to go back and admit that everything was kind of, maybe even completely wrong. Mm-hmm. So that really put it into perspective when I heard that for me, because again, I was one of those some things, mm-hmm. It's easy for me. Like, let's just let go of it already. There's going to be something else down the road. So let's just move on to that. But again, for other people, it was everything. And everything really is hard to let go of. So I get it. And I think that, can maybe put into perspective a lot of what you were talking about and some of your frustrations too.
Well, I think you're right in the fact that some people brought it into their world and it dominated, like you said, everything around them very, very early on. And once a narrative starts to fall apart, it's still almost impossible to address that. Like, for instance, mm-hmm. man, I don't even know if I should say it here, but one of the things I was talking about with this gentleman was a drug called budesonide. And so far, I haven't gotten hit by YouTube for talking about budesonide. So let's see if we can't pull up the Oxford study that shows that budesonide, a cheap steroid that you get for $5 to $20 without a prescription, according to Oxford, has a 90% actual efficacy rate in requiring no need for urgent care, no hospitalizations. Participants had a quicker resolution of fever symptoms, fewer persistent symptoms after 28 days. That's 9 out of 10. It's 146 people. They released it in February. I've been talking about the drug since June. You won't hear about it. People cling on to these narratives so hard that you can come up with a very viable and available solution, but because Tony Fauci's not telling you it's a solution, or Joe Biden's not telling you it's a solution, and you're so absorbed in this and you're playing team baseball, you refuse to say, wow, that's a solution that could get us back to our regular life. Not the only one, by the way. So I see that all the time where they get so invested in a narrative. I mean, you could throw. I remember when I did that story, okay, the budesonide story over the summer. And I had one of these big-time lefty liberal types goes, well, this is great news because if it works, we're going to have this thing going by August. And obviously, if there's any validity to this, we can end this and people can use it. I go, that's not going to happen. I go, this isn't a vaccine. This is cheap. I go, this is going to get suppressed. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Crickets when I put up the Oxford study 6 months ago, or 6 months later. Crickets. Nah, oh, you were right. Nah, oh, that's correct. No, we still got to vaccinate everybody with one of the 3 Franken vaccines that haven't been fully tested on human beings. It's wacky. It's nutty. And I think that the people that are putting it into everything, unfortunately, have a better chance of giving up everything by obeying this narrative and just rolling up their sleeve and doing what they're told. And I don't know if you know what's going on in Israel right now, but they've got everything from vaccine passports for you to go to dance clubs and go shopping to a freedom bracelet. Jason, I don't know if you've seen the freedom bracelet, but it's a very loving bracelet that if you want to come into Israel and you don't want to quarantine at one of their facilities, you can go home and wear the freedom bracelet. You can stay there for 2 weeks. And I mean, just the fact that they would dare name it the freedom bracelet when it's there to keep you at home for 2 weeks is as over the top, inverted, and Orwellian as it gets, brother. I know I've ranted and raved for about a half an hour with you right now, Jason. Is there is there anything else you would like to tell my audience about and get them motivated to do other than, caged aggression coming up in less than 2 weeks?
Well, you mentioned the freedom bracelet, and honestly, it made me hungry because I was a fan of the freedom fries when those were a thing. But man, I was not pleasantly surprised when you showed me a picture of that freedom bracelet. That looked kind of creepy.
Well, dude, I don't know if you saw South Park this Wednesday, but they did their big vaccination special. You can actually see it at southparq.com because they ripped on the Q guys quite a bit on it. And I'm a huge fan of South Park. I've loved it forever. Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is still my favorite musical of all time. I think it's untouchable. But I watched this, man, and it was a tough watch. Did a review on it. The pandemic special definitely had its moments of propaganda and whatever, but still had a lot of humor in between and made some good points. This one, it was really tough. And at the beginning, they talk about Israel and how they've vaccinated pretty much everybody there, 90%. And then by the end of this 1 hour episode, it's Israel that comes in with vaccines to save everybody. And it's South Park, so it takes it over the top. But it's just like, why are we celebrating a nation that's forcibly inoculating its people and then saying your papers, please? It's like we forgot that the Nazis used to say your papers, please. I guess we got history wrong. They were trying to be nice about it, Jason. They said please at the end. They deserved our papers. And
that makes it better.
Yeah, of course it makes it better. And one of the things that really drove me out of my little small town New York place was I went on my main street one day and all of a sudden there were metal signs on my street that said, please wear a mask. And then when I posted those signs, and they're metal signs everywhere, I would have people go, they're asking nicely. Oh my God. Oh, they put please on the sign, so I should do it. Hey, maybe you'd like to fist my asshole, please. Like, what is going on?
Hey, I'll tell you what. Yeah, you're right. It is better when they ask nicely, but you know what's even better than that? When it's our idea.
I just like to be able to say no when you say please. I'm pretty sure when the Nazis asked for your papers and they said, please, you didn't have a choice. And right now, many of the times that they add, please, can you please put on your mask? Could you please pull it above your nose, sir, please? Again, that's what I think about every time. And it's going to be extremely hard to change my brain chemistry. I can guarantee that. New Pearl Order Pod. Go ahead, Jason, go ahead.
No. I was just agreeing with you. It is, and that's all I was going to say, and I agree with you.
New Pearled Podcast.com. Pearleduppodcast.com is where you find all the old episodes, all the merch, both Jason Vargas and Andy Hayes. And I want to give Andy a shout out again for that Rockfin tip. Watching on the alternative platform that's keeping me alive here. Tell everybody where else they can find you, what you got coming up, and give them the spiel. Tell them why they need to come to Caged Aggression in 2 weeks.
Oh, man. We're, as far as the podcast goes, we're on pretty much any platform where you normally listen to your podcasts or get your podcasts. We are strictly an audio-only podcast right now. But, like I said, we pride ourselves not on having guests and doing a question-answer format, but having guest co-hosts and really having a conversation format the best we have or best we can and really getting to know our guest co-hosts from a different angle. I mean, they're mixed martial artists for the most part. They're involved in combat sports. We know that punching, kicking, and submission is part of the process. So we like to delve into other aspects of it. But like I said, we're on pretty much any platform where you can normally listen to and download and subscribe to podcasts. We appreciate any and all feedback. You mentioned the website. We've got some social media. I'm not as active on any of that anymore, but Andy does a great job at interacting with everyone on social media and keeping things going like that. As far as the show goes, Jason, Caged Aggression 30, I've used a ton of words to try and describe it. Historic, ambitious. I mean, it's everything that everyone's tried to describe it as so far. And I guarantee if you're there in person or if you're watching on pay-per-view, it's going to be even more than that. I mean, the way everything looks on paper right now, you and I have sent messages back and forth on it. I mean, it's electrifying. We've got a night full of undefeateds facing off against each other. We've got a highly anticipated women's championship bout that was supposed to take place last year. We won't talk about why it didn't, but hey, again, things change and this sport's all about timing. We get it now in the historic 3-night event. So,
and you just had a late replacement Jackson Wink fighter come in, right?
What's that?
I said you just had a late replacement Jackson Wink fighter come in. One of the most notorious MMA camps out there. I'm looking forward to that. He's fighting Jenkins, isn't he?
Lots of big camps. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to mention it earlier, but we've talked about that so much. There was an exciting matchup. I loved the way that the first matchup was working out. As far as Brandon Jenkins competing for the professional super lightweight title. Again, things happen. All about timing, and somehow, some way, Mike, being the miracle worker that he is, gets a guy out of Jackson Wink, Aaron Mitchell. Just an electrifying guy in the cage, highly skilled, and a complete package when it comes down to it. He's like I said, he's got the looks, he's got the skills, and he's got the confidence. And you got to have that when you go in against a guy like Brandon Jenkins. Again, we've talked about it before. His nickname is the Human Highlight Reel, and he does his best on his end to live up to that nickname every chance he gets. So, it's hard. You got me talking about the bouts again. You got me talking about some of these matchups, and with 3 nights full of them and so many good ones, it's tough to stop, Jason.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to say it again. If you're anywhere in the area, hotels are cheap here. You get on the online, you press the buttons, boop-a-doop-a-doop. You might be able to get like $70 a night for a 3-4 star in the area. They got the Ubers. You can have a good time. We got a downtown right where these fights are. You walk out, there's plenty of bars and a downtown night scene. There'll be some normalcy for you. So I'm already trying to get some of my New York buddies to come out. We'll see if any of them do, but I'm definitely working towards it. I'm looking forward to it. Mr. Vargas, it has been a pleasure. I want to shout you guys out one more time. It's pearleduppodcast.com, pearleduppodcast.com. That's where you can find everything New Pearl Order. Mr. Vargas, it has been a pleasure, and we will have to do it soon.
For sure. I'm glad, man, because I'm the worst at self-promotion. You did a great job at it, Jason.
I try, brother.
Hey, I should add too, man, if you got any buddies that are going to come out, you mentioned the great rates, the already great rates on the hotels out there. We always, because we try to take care of our fighters at Caged Aggression. So for everyone that travels out to compete and perform during a live event, we have blocks of hotel rooms set up with a great establishment up there already, and we get it worked out. Like I said, Mike's great at it. He gets it worked out to where we actually can have a discount for fans in attendance as well. So, on top of the already great rate, you can get a little bit of a discount just for being a Caged Aggression fan. So if that helps, I don't know.
If that pushes anybody a little further, let's do it. Again, Mr. Vargas, I will talk to you shortly. If we don't see each other before then, I'll see you in a couple weeks. I'm looking forward to it. And thanks for joining the broadcast, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Talk soon.
You got it. Everybody, that is Jason Vargas, one half of the pearleduppodcast.com. Please go check him out. All the links are down below how you can support me, but one of the ways to support me is to Rockfin. Rockfin ain't taking me off the air. And you know what? I saw some people that were concerned about me having to relocate my watch along with Oprah and the Royals. That was just out of concern for a possible, copyright infringement and Harpo Productions coming after them. That's all. Which I understand. I did use quite a lot of it. I still think that a watch along like that is, a good thing because it's almost like a press conference and it's a big propaganda piece one way or the other because you're dealing, with royalty. Let's just say it that way. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Hopefully we'll be back later today with more, especially a walk and talk because I got to get outside and breathe in some fresh air. I love you, and I'll see you on the flip.